What if the creature your ancestors feared was just waiting for you to stop believing? I didn't believe the stories. Not really. Not until the river called me by my name. The first time I heard it, I thought it was the wind. But wind doesn't whisper in voices that sound like your dead grandmother. They told us the Taniwha sleeps beneath the river bend, coiled like something forgotten. A beast with eyes made of stone and breath that smells of rusted bones. But legends don't crawl up your spine at night. They don't track you with your own memories. Unless they're not legends. We were outsiders, really, city-blooded, skeptical, and sunburnt. My parents dragged us back to their village in the North Island of New Zealand for the funeral. Nana Weena had died the way she lived, quietly, surrounded by things she never explained. Her house still smelled like wood smoke and jasmine, like secrets soaked into the floorboards. I hadn't cried when she passed. Not because I wasn't sad, but because something about it didn't feel over. The night we arrived, the river rose without warning. No rain. No storm. Just water, pushing against the banks, thick and violent. That same night, someone scratched the word, "Emema" with Macron, into the misted back window of our rental car. I don't speak fluent Maori, but I knew what it meant. Dream. Or maybe, nightmare. I didn't sleep well in Nana's old house. The walls groaned in the dark, like they missed her. And I kept dreaming about teeth, rows of them bone-white and dripping. In the dreams I wasn't being chased. I was following the thing. Through black water. When I told my brother Teo, he just laughed and said I needed to lay off the TikToks. But something was happening here. Something Nana never warned me about, maybe because it was too old, too dark, too sacred to name. Nana used to whisper bedtime stories about the river being alive. Not metaphorically, alive. She said it remembers. Said some things that drown here don't stay dead. I used to laugh at her. Once I even told her, the only monsters in the river are eels and rusted bicycles. She didn't laugh. She just looked out the window and said, "You think you're safe because you're from the city? But blood always floats home." That morning we found something twisted on the back porch. A freshly gutted eel, its body laid out in the shape of a spiral. Its eyes were still blinking. My uncle said it was probably some kids messing around. But Nana used to tell us spirals meant something was waking. The second warning came at dusk. A dog, stray, mangled, dragged itself to our fence, foaming and wild-eyed. Its tongue had been bitten off. And scrawled into its fur, in thick red scratches, was one word. Maui. Teo said it was just superstition. But I remembered the myth. Maui, the trickster demigod, once tried to slow death by tricking the goddess of the underworld. She punished him by birthing things from the deep. Things that feed on mockery. That night I stood at the river's edge. It was too still. Like it was listening. And then, I saw something move under the surface. Not swim. Crawl. A shadow longer than a man, with ridges down its back like broken mountains. It turned once, revealing an eye the size of a dinner plate. And I swear it winked at me. What if the water remembers the ones it's already taken, and wants you next? The next morning the river was gone. I don't mean dry, it still ran, thick and glassy and cold. But it felt empty. Like whatever had been moving in it the night before had left something behind, or taken something with it. I didn't tell anyone about the eye. Not because I was afraid they wouldn't believe me, but because deep down, I didn't want to believe myself. But I couldn't shake the image. That massive eye. Yellow, cracked like dried clay, pupil dilated like it had recognized me. Like it knew something. At dawn, Uncle Tama found bones under the house. Not small ones. Long and curved like ribs, weathered fossil-like. He thought maybe they were from an old pig slaughtered decades ago. But pigs don't have teeth shaped like human molars. And no pig bones I've ever seen had grooves carved into them. Tiny spirals. Repeating symbols. As if someone, or something, had been etching its name into them over time. I watched Uncle Tama hold one of the bones in his calloused hand. The way he turned it over, the way his breath caught, like he knew. But he didn't say anything. He just buried them again. No shovel. No words. Just his bare hands in the dirt, like he was afraid saying the wrong thing out loud might summon something. I asked him what they were. He didn't answer. He just looked at me and said, "Don't go near the water again." But I already had. And it had looked back. That night, I found one of Nana's old notebooks buried beneath a pile of dried flax baskets. The pages were brittle. Yellowed and thin like skin stretched too tight. On the second page was a hand-drawn map. It showed the river as it used to be, wider, deeper, and marked with red excess. One of those excess sat exactly where I'd seen the thing move. Next to it, scribbled in faint ink, a sentence I read 3 times before I understood. "Bones do not float here. They anchor." Suddenly, Nana's bedtime stories weren't just stories. They were warnings. The notebook had more than maps. It had names. Dozens of them. Children. All handwritten. Each followed by a date. Some were scratched out so violently the paper tore. Some had nothing next to them but the word, Eels Bend. I asked my mum if she knew what that meant. Her face went pale. And all she said was, that bend hasn't existed since the flood of '93. But I remembered something strange from earlier. Something no one else noticed. When we arrived for the funeral, I saw an old photo frame on the wall. It was dusty, cracked, tucked in the corner behind other cleaner, newer pictures. In it were 4 children. 3 smiling. 1 blurred out completely. The caption said, Aroha Meshu Henar Anar. The last name was ripped clean. When I showed the photo to Uncle Tama, he didn't even look. He just muttered, that one never came back. And we don't say his name. I wanted to ask more. But that night, something scratched at my window. 3 short taps. Then silence. I waited, holding my breath, counting. Then came the whisper. Not a word. A wet breath. Like someone exhaling water through their teeth. The next morning, Teo was gone. His bed unslept. Shoes still by the door. No one seemed alarmed. Mum said, he probably went for a walk. Uncle Tama just stared at the river. But I knew Teo didn't walk anywhere without his phone. And when I picked it up off the floor, the screen was still recording. The final few seconds of footage? Just static. Then a flicker of something dark slithering past the lens. And a voice. My voice. Saying, I'm not laughing anymore. What if legends don't fade, they just wait for you to come home? What if the place they told you to stay away from is where your blood remembers to return? I didn't want to believe he was gone. Teo was the skeptic. The rational one. He mocked Nana's stories, rolled his eyes at warnings, said the river was just wet dirt and myths. But now, his bed was cold. And the only thing he left behind was his phone, still filming, still recording air that didn't feel like it belonged to this world. On the audio, if you listen close enough, you could hear it. A slither. A gurgle. A wet dragging sound. Not footsteps. And in the last 2 seconds, a voice, distant, hoarse, like it was trying to use his throat. You heard me. You heard me? I couldn't sit still after that. Everyone acted normal. Mum was cooking, humming the same lullaby Nana used to sing. Uncle Tama was sharpening a fishing knife in the shed, hands too steady. They weren't ignoring Teo's disappearance. They were accepting it. Like it had happened before. Like he was already gone in their minds. I wasn't ready to bury my brother. Not yet. Especially when I hadn't even begun to understand what took him. So I went into Nana's room. It was cold in there. The kind of cold that didn't make sense for summer. I peeled back the old flax mat under her bed and found a wooden box. Carved with spirals. Same symbols that were etched into the bones under the house. Inside, a dried eel tail, black and stiff as charcoal. A photo of 4 children. 1 face scratched out. A newspaper clipping from 1993. 12-year-old boy missing after flash flood at Eels Bend. Locals blame river spirits. But the part that chilled me? Scrawled in Nana's handwriting beneath the article. That wasn't water. It was mouth. I took the clipping and stormed into the living room. Who was the 4th kid? I asked Mum. The one in Nana's photo. The one whose name was torn out. She froze. Just for a second. Then softly said, Riwai. He was your cousin. He vanished the day after he mocked the karakia at the river bend. I didn't understand. You mean the prayer? Mum nodded, eyes wet. He laughed. He spat in the water. That night, the river rose. I asked if they ever found him. She whispered, only his jawbone. I begged Uncle Tama to take me to Eels Bend. He refused. Said it wasn't there anymore. That the land had shifted. Flooded. Erased. But I remembered the red X on Nana's map. I remembered the twisted eel we'd found. I knew where it was. I went alone. It wasn't far, just beyond the curve of the mangroves, past the old burial trees. The deeper I walked, the quieter it became. Even the birds stopped. And then, there it was. Eels Bend. Still there. Still curling like a scar in the land. Still wrong. The water looked thick, like it wasn't just wet but alive. Slick and ink dark, like something sleeping just below the surface. I knelt at the riverbank, heart pounding, and whispered Teo's name. No answer. But the reeds rustled. And something rose from the water. Not a creature. A bundle. I pulled it out with shaking hands. Wrapped in flax and riverweed. Inside, Teo's hoodie. His wallet. And a jawbone. Just one. but smaller than Rewise. Tucked beneath the hoodie was something else, a top of cloth, damp and disintegrating, marked with spirals and 3 bloodstains, and a message etched in blackened ink. Water remembers blood. The laughers drowned first. As I stood, something grabbed my ankle. Not pulled, just held. Cold, slimy, firm. I screamed and fell back, kicking. But there was nothing there. Except a single stone, still warm, carved with a symbol I'd seen in Nana's journal. I didn't know what it meant. But when I touched it, I heard Teo's voice. Not from the water. From inside my head. Don't come looking. What if the river doesn't drown its victims? It keeps them? What if the ones you think are missing never left the river at all? I couldn't move. The stone in my hand pulsed with a strange warmth, like it had a heartbeat. It wasn't smooth. It was jagged and carved with that same spiral I'd seen in Nana's journal, etched so deeply it almost bled into my palm. When I gripped it, I didn't just hear Teo's voice. I felt him. Like he was standing right behind me. But when I turned, nothing. Only the river, rippling like it was laughing quietly to itself. As I stumbled back toward the house, every tree looked like it was watching me. The wind didn't blow through the leaves, it whispered. Not words. Not even breath. Just sounds you hear when someone is trying not to be heard. And when I looked down at the stone again, the spiral had changed. It had opened. I didn't show the stone to Mum. She was humming again. The same lullaby. Her hands were shaking while she chopped vegetables, like she was trying to distract herself with something small. Like she was pretending she hadn't just lost her son. I sat across from her and waited. Finally I asked, "Did Nana ever talk about the ones who never came back?" She froze mid-chop. Didn't look up. Just said, "They're not gone. They're just not here." Then she whispered a name I'd never heard before. Na Tamapuru. I asked what it meant. She swallowed hard. The Sealed Boys. That night, I dug deeper into Nana's journals. Page after page of spirals, chants, and warnings. One entry caught my breath. 7 children. All gone within 30 years. All laughed at the karakia. All dismissed the stories. All returned, but not as themselves. Next to that was a drawing, crude but chilling. A boy's silhouette hollowed out like a shell. And beneath it, a spiral that bled into an open mouth. I flipped to the back cover. There, scrawled in heavy black ink. If the stone changes, follow it. I waited until midnight. Everyone was asleep. Mum curled on the couch, Uncle Tama gone again, probably at the shed. I took the stone outside. It was glowing faintly in the moonlight, and when I turned it in my hand, the spiral aligned with something in the trees. A symbol. Etched into the bark of an ancient totara tree. A path. I followed it. The deeper I walked into the bush, the more the spiral appeared. On stones, on tree trunks, even carved into bones hung from branches like wind chimes. They weren't warnings. They were directions. And they led me to a cave. One no one ever mentioned. Hidden beneath the roots of a giant kauri, mouth open like it had been waiting for someone to remember. The air changed the moment I stepped inside. Damp. Heavy. Almost too thick to breathe. I used my phone's flashlight, but the beam felt swallowed by the dark. Still I saw things. Names scratched into stone walls. Voices whispering behind the echoes, never louder than the drip of water, but always just clear enough to unsettle. Then I found them. Old wooden masks, lined neatly against one wall. Each one different. Each carved with a spiral mouth. One of them was wet. And beneath it, a notebook. Not Nana's. Teo's. Page after page. First entries were normal. Then it turned. Saw the spiral again. It's not carved. It's growing. Heard a boy laughing behind the trees. But there was no boy. The river isn't just water. It listens. And it wants. And the final entry. I followed it too far. There are others here. They wear our faces. But they're not us anymore. If you're reading this, don't try to bring me back. That's what it wants. It doesn't drown you. It hollows you. And fills you with itself. I dropped the notebook. Because I saw something at the far end of the cave. A figure. Standing. Still. Wearing Teo's hoodie. But the face wasn't right. Too smooth. Eyes too dark. Like they were borrowed. It raised its hand. And then it smiled. With a spiral carved into its mouth. What if the missing aren't lost, just replaced? What if what came back wasn't your brother, but something that learned how to wear his skin? I didn't move. I couldn't. The thing standing at the edge of the cave looked like Teo. Same height. Same hoodie, ripped at the sleeve from where he fell off his skateboard last winter. But the face It was like someone had sculpted my brother's face from memory, a little too smooth, a little too still. And when it smiled, the edges of its mouth split into a spiral, carved deep into the flesh. It raised a hand, fingers trembling like it wasn't used to being in a body. Then it whispered, "Kiri, it's me." But it wasn't, because Teo never used that voice. Teo never dragged his words like he had water in his lungs. And Teo never smiled without his eyes. I took a step back. My knees almost buckled. Every instinct screamed at me to run. But part of me wanted to believe, wanted to hope, that maybe something of him was still in there. I said his name. He blinked. Head tilted too sharp, too fast. Like a bird dissecting a worm. Then he said slowly, "I remember your dreams. The one about the teeth." I hadn't told anyone about that dream. That's when I understood. This thing didn't just look like Teo. It had access to him. To his mind. His memories. But not his soul. Suddenly, I remembered something Nana once said when I was little. I'd asked why she covered the mirrors at night. She told me. Because they look back. But not with your eyes. I thought it was superstition. Now I wondered if she was warning me about this. Not mirrors. Mimics. The ones who wait for you to love them so they can crawl into your shape. The ones who feed on memory and grief. The ones who can't survive unless you let them in. I asked the thing a question. What did we bury under the manuka tree when we were 6? It paused. Then smiled wider. A dead cat. You cried. Wrong. We buried a wooden box full of chocolate wrappers and fake treasure. No cat. No crying. That wasn't a mistake. That was a test. To see what I'd believe. What I'd accept. I stepped back further. The figure took a step forward. That's when the smell hit me. Rot. River slime. And something else. Burned hair. Wet ash. The hoodie wasn't soaked with water. It was soaked with something thicker. I asked one more question. What's my name? It hesitated. Just long enough. Then it said, Sister. Not Kiri. I ran. Through the cave. Deeper than I'd gone before. My light flickered, barely reaching the jagged walls, until I stumbled into a hidden chamber. And that's where I saw them. The masks. Dozens. Lined across the rock like forgotten ancestors. Each carved with a spiral mouth. Each shaped like a face. And in the center, a mirror. Cracked. Framed in bone. I stepped closer. And the reflection staring back was Teo. But not the one I remembered. His eyes were too wide. Mouth slightly open. And behind him something moved. A long black tail, slithering behind his feet. The stone in my hand burned. I dropped it and it cracked in half. From the crack something oozed. Not liquid. Smoke. Like breath escaping from something buried too long. I heard the voice again. Not Teo's. Not mine. Something older. I turned and saw the figure again. Closer this time. Its mouth no longer smiling. Now twitching. Opening wider than humanly possible. The spiral expanding, unraveling, like it was trying to speak something ancient. Then it lunged. But not at me. At the mirror. It smashed its hand into the glass and let out a sound that wasn't a scream. It was a mimic of Teo's laugh. Only broken. And behind the smashed glass something opened. A void. Black. Wet. And moving. A door. And from within it, another voice. Whispering my name. My real name. The one only Teo knew. And I realized, whatever wore his face, wasn't the only one trying to get out. What if the river isn't where they drown, but where they're kept, alive, aware, and waiting? When the mirror shattered, something opened. Not just glass, but a seam in the world. Behind it was no reflection, no wall, no shadow. Just a slow-moving void like water without surface. Like breath held beneath generations. Like grief that had shape. And somewhere inside it, a voice. Kiri, please. Faint. But real. It wasn't the mimic. It wasn't the thing in the hoodie. It was him. It was Teo. The void breathed out. And with it came a flood of whispers. Dozens of voices. Some cracked. Some crying. Some repeating the same name again and again. Mum. 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 I stepped forward. The cave behind me vanished like a blown-out candle. All that remained was below. I wasn't standing on rock anymore. My feet were submerged in water. But it didn't feel like water. It felt like memory. Each step triggered flashes. Nana braiding my hair, telling me never to turn my back on the river. Teo's laugh echoing after he soaked me with a water balloon. The day he stopped laughing when Nana passed. Every memory had weight here. Every one of them was pulling me deeper. Like this place was feeding on them. On me. In the swirl of water I saw them, faces. Children, teens, adults. All hovering just beneath the surface, eyes wide open. Not screaming. Watching. Among them I recognized one. Rewind. The boy from the photo. My cousin who vanished in '93. His mouth opened underwater. And though no sound came out, I heard it inside my head. We mocked the Karakia. And another voice followed. We stopped believing. So it remembered us. I moved forward, lungs tight. The water rose not around me, but within me. I could taste mud, blood, and bone ash. This wasn't a river. It was a holding place. A memory vault for those the Taniwha had marked. It didn't eat its victims. It took them apart. Bit by bit. Pulled their truths from their tongues. Learned them. And then wore them. I wasn't in a place. I was in a mind. Then I saw him. Teo. Kneeling in the water, shirt soaked, hands bound by eelskin cords. He didn't look up at first. When he finally did, I saw it. His eyes were still his. Exhausted. Bloodshot. But his. Teo? I whispered. His voice cracked. You came. And then. You shouldn't have. Before I could respond, something rose from behind him. Not a shadow. A shape. Long pale. Ribbed like driftwood. Eyes embedded in its sides, blinking in different directions. And in its chest. A spiral. Pulsing. Turning slowly like a sinkhole in flesh. The Taniwha. It didn't charge. It didn't roar. It whispered. You have something of mine. Teo screamed. Not in pain. In warning. It only wears what we give it. Don't speak your name again. But I already had. I'd said it 3 times since entering. I'd fed it. And now it was unraveling itself. Reaching. Stretching. Mouths opening where no mouth should be. And I understood the price. It wasn't trying to keep us. It was trying to replace us. One by one. Make us forget who we were. So it could become what we loved. The Taniwha's body cracked open like a shell. Inside it, hundreds of masks, faces I recognized. Teo. Riwai. Nana. Even mine. All floating, turning, twitching. It offered me a mask. Not to wear. But to choose. One would set Teo free. The rest would trap me here. Forever. A wrong choice meant my body outside would open its eyes. And something else would be behind them. I closed my eyes. Listened. And in the silence I remembered the spiral. Nana's words. Spirals don't end. They return. Follow your breath, not your fear. I opened my eyes. Chose the mask with the scar above the brow. Teo's real scar. The one only I remembered giving him with a stick when we were 6. The mask shattered like glass. Teo gasped. And the water collapsed inward. I grabbed his arm. And the spiral in the Taniwha's chest began to close. But just before it vanished, it hissed. You can leave, but you're still wearing me. What if the river gave you your loved one back, but not all of them? What if the only way to survive the monster was to carry a piece of it with you forever? We came back wrong. The cave collapsed behind us, vanishing like it had never been there. The path through the bush was different now. Shorter. Smoother. Like it wanted us gone. Or like it knew we couldn't run far. When we stepped through the tree line, the river was calm again. Like glass. Like it hadn't swallowed generations. Like it hadn't opened its chest and shown me every memory it had ever stolen. But when I looked down at my palm, the spiral from the stone was still there. Etched into my skin. Burned into me. Like it had marked me for something. Something still watching. Teo didn't speak for hours. He sat on the porch, barefoot, staring at the dirt beneath his feet like it would open up again. He looked alive. He even smiled once when Mum hugged him and sobbed into his shirt. But I knew the truth. He didn't come back alone. Later that night, I found him in Nana's room, staring into the cracked mirror. Not moving. Not blinking. Just breathing. I asked what he saw. He said, I don't know yet. But it's learning to be me. I sat beside him, staring at our reflections. Mine looked pale. But still mine. Flickered. For a split second, his eyes turned black. Not fully. Just a flick. Like a shadow moving behind a curtain. And in that moment, I remembered what the Taniwha had whispered. You can leave, but you're still wearing me. It hadn't meant me. It had meant him. Over the next few days, things got worse. Teo forgot things. Small at first. Where he put his shoes. Nana's name. The word for Karakia. Then came the voice. He started sleep-talking. But it wasn't in English. It wasn't even Maori. It was something deeper. Guttural. Wet. Broken. I recorded it once. When I played it back, my phone cracked down the center. And in the static before it died, I heard one word. Replace. I confronted him. In the same place it all started. By the river. The air was thick. Smelled like jasmine and rot. Just like the day Nana died. I said, Teo, you're not you anymore. He smiled. Not yet, he said. But I'm close. Then he blinked. And just for a moment, it wasn't Teo. It was the spiral. The same grin. The same calm. The same waiting. I raised the knife. The one Uncle Tama used in the shed. The one he sharpened the day Teo vanished. Teo looked at it. And said, You'll have to bury 2 bodies, Kiri. Mine, and the one that wears me. But I couldn't do it. Because I saw him. The real Teo. Still inside. Still fighting. Still blinking messages through those dark eyes. Help me. So I did the only thing Nana might have done. I wrapped a karakia around us. Spoken in whispers. Chanted in breath. Every word from her old journal. Every warning. Every name. And in the end I said mine. Kiri of the river, Kiri of the stone, Kiri who remembers. The spiral burned out from Teo's chest in a hiss of black smoke. And the river screamed. Not aloud. But through us. A howl of pain and rage and history that had been denied another vessel. Teo collapsed. I caught him. When he woke, his eyes were his. Tired. Cracked. But full of guilt. Did I hurt anyone? He asked. I shook my head. No, I whispered. But something else tried to love through you. And now, it was gone. Maybe. We left the village a week later. Uncle Tama never asked what happened. Mum cried in silence during the drive, like she knew what we'd done, and what we'd almost lost. I still dream about the river. I still see the faces beneath the surface. And sometimes, when I walk past puddles or hear the shower drain gurgle, I smell eel and rust and old blood. The spirals faded from my hand. But sometimes, I catch it glimmering under my skin, like it's waiting. Because maybe the Taniwha doesn't die. Maybe it doesn't sleep. Maybe it just waits, for laughter. For disbelief. For the next person who mocks the river and forgets the names of the drowned. And maybe, just maybe, it's already behind your eyes. What if the true price of surviving is never being sure you really did? If you want more chilling true crime stories like this one, don't forget to subscribe to the Veil of Secrets.